Judgment can be cruel and unjustified, yet it is ever prevalent. We judge based on race, religion, sex, even though we are taught that this is wrong. And as Americans, we claim to be very proud of our Declaration of Independence where we're all created equal. But do we practice what we preach?
Wow.
These are the questions that we're going to be dealing with today in this episode of Faith in Today's World. Hi, I'm Kevin Van Hall.
Hello, I'm Duke Lackey. I thank you for those questions, and no thank you for those questions. It's all you always ask the great challenging questions. You hit right to the source.
I do. We're going to jump right into it. Last week, we started talking about judgment. We're going to continue our discussion on judgment. We kind of concentrated on God's judgment last week. We talked about God judging a nation, God judging individuals. And today we're going to focus a little bit more on how people judge other people.
Right.
And we do it based on appearance. We do it based on many things, actually, not just appearance, wealth. We claim success, but what is success? And we claim it's not about money, but society shows that it is, Duke. I don't understand.
Well, it's the capitalism is about accumulation. It is absolutely about accumulation. And my dad always says if capitalism won't work unless everybody's a Christian, saying unless you're willing to share what you have, capitalism will not be able to stand. And my dad, with his 9th grade education, I think he has a lot of wisdom in that statement.
There's a lot of wisdom in that. And a lot of people know what's right and wrong. It's harder sometimes to always practice. I fall into it. I'm not perfect. Yeah. We're none of us are perfect. We all have that tendency to judge. We try to fight it after the fact. We go, man, I shouldn't have thought that way, maybe.
Right.
It's easier to see when other people are judging others and we can call them out and saying that's wrong. But when we do it ourselves, see it?
It's hard. It's so hard to see ourselves. That's why it's important to live in community, because I can't see it unless someone who loves me points it out.
Right.
And I think if we go back to Brian McLaren's Faith After Doubt, he gives us this 4 stages of spiritual formation, which is basically the same 4 stages of human maturity. I think God's in all of it. I don't think we need to separate spiritual formation and human maturity. I think God's in all of it. And our default position as a people who have evolved in this world is safety and security. So that's our default position. Our brain is always high attentive to fearful things. And out of fear, we look and we judge. So I think that's the foundation of the human condition, is that we look and measure everything. Is this safe or is this unsafe? Now, I don't think we do this consciously. I think that's the default position of the brain. And you look different from me, so I'm going to judge you, and I'm not going to trust you until you prove yourself. That's at the best. At the worst is you look different. You're part of a different tribe. I'm never going to trust you no matter what.
So we're a bunch of sheep, even though we claim that we're not strong, but we're a bunch of sheep, and we feel vulnerable when another group of sheep comes by and we go, so are these other sheep, or those wolves in sheep's clothing, or wolves, or we're white sheep and we see the black sheep and we're like, they're black. What's wrong with them?
Right.
We're obviously better.
Yes.
We're the white sheep. You're the black sheep. So, but God made us all different. Oh, that's a twist.
Diversity seems like a very significant part of the world in which God has created. More diversity guarantees longer evolutionary sustainability.
Right. Well, yeah, but as sheep now, we're not. Our mentality is still that herd-like survival mentality. Yes. We count on the sheepdog, the shepherd, to take care of us. We don't listen to the shepherd, the good shepherd being Jesus. we count on the wolf in sheep's clothing or the dog that says, no, this is a better way for me to protect you. And we go,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And we trust that. But we don't go judge by
Right.
their acts. Even though
So
that wolf eats the other sheep, he goes, he was a bad sheep. I had to eat him. Don't worry about it. Oh, okay. You said it's okay. Then it's okay.
it's okay. Yeah. We're not. So when Jesus says you're the sheep of my pasture, that's not a compliment. Sheep are not the brightest animals in the world. And they need to be cared for. And so we live our whole life growing up. I've got to be independent. I want my kids to be independent. I'm going to be independent. And it's good to be independent. I want my kids to be independent. But we've got to remember that there is that sheep element in our brain, that fear element in our brain that will override all reason. The emotions will override our reason. And it's important to live in community so that we can keep one another in check. Are we acting just out of emotion, or is this a reasonable way to behave?
Right. Well, let's go back to the early church, talking about judgment. The early Christians were severely persecuted, punished, made fun of by Jews, Gentiles, pagans, everybody. They held strong to the faith. I guess they didn't need to feel that I guess that survival instinct wasn't there. They didn't mind martyrdom. They didn't mind being killed.
Again, so the emotion trumps reason. And so these early Christians had an encounter with the resurrected Christ. They had an encounter of God that was transformative, that they said, this is willing to die for. And so that emotion, it's just gonna have its way in our life and in our world. And I'm guessing the question is the judgment is what do we allow to be the emotional component in our life? What do we invite into our life that's going to shape and form us at the very core of our being, which is emotion? And I believe that's a decision. And so what evangelism is saying, here, look at the story of Jesus. This is true, as in this is true at all times, in all places, among all people. That suffering, sacrificial love is the core of being human.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a decision that we have to make, and we invite people to. And that's evangelism.
Right.
That this story of Jesus is the true story.
Yes. And they chose love over material things, gifts, other lies.
And they chose love over power.
True.
They chose love in powerlessness.
Yes.
And that's not a reasonable decision.
No.
That's got to be something that hits deep within. That, love is, I'm going to commit to love no matter what.
Yeah. Well, that brings up 2 points I want to make. In our previous discussions, we talked about who do you listen to. So these people, and especially the Gentiles that were listening to Paul, chose to believe his message of hope and love versus others' messages. And let's go back to Paul and his conversion. Starting off with Saul, we had that talk. There was judgment against Paul. Paul does this huge conversion. And now Paul is judging the early church, Peter and John and James back in Jerusalem, because they want to hold tight to their Judean traditions, rules, laws. Paul is like, no, we're pushing the gospel of Jesus forward. We're converting Gentiles. They don't have to be circumcised.
Right.
So the same person that is a hard Jewish tradition that's persecuting Christians is now against the Judean traditions.
180 degree different. Yeah.
A complete conversion. So
that's the first real argument. Acts 15 is where it's resolved. Do Gentiles have to become Jewish in order to be Christian? And basically what they decided in Acts 15 was that, no, Gentiles need to recognize that we're guests at the table. And they say, here's 4 things that every guest in our community must practice. And so that's where they agreed. The Gentiles just serve their guest at the table.
So, yeah, there were some other rules and laws, but let's go back a little bit farther in Acts.
Yeah.
Let's go back to chapter 5. I want to talk about this little passage of judgment. Everyone familiar with the story of Ananias and Sapphira? Is that
Sapphira,
right?
I would say Sapphira. Yeah.
Sapphira?
I don't know if that's correct. Again, just say it with confidence. People will trust you.
We'll just say Ananias. Early churches living in a social community, right? All the Christians are gathered together. Well, it's more like survival, what you just talked about. They're bringing forth all of their goods, money,
sharing
anything
the
they can,
resources.
sharing it. Survivability. They're being persecuted, but they're strong in their beliefs. And Ananias and his wife sell some land, take some money, and they go to Peter and to give it to the church to put their money into pot, but they hold back a little bit of money.
Yep.
Peter knows it. Calls Ananias out, and he says, Ananias, is this all of the money you received for selling that land?
Oh, yes, Peter.
Oh, you're doing a great Ananias.
Yeah.
Is it really all of the money?
It's everything. It's everything. I promise.
Oh, and he says, how dare you lie to God and to me, Satan? You're lying. What happens to Ananias?
He falls down dead.
Drops dead right at Peter's feet. Does Peter pass judgment on him for lying and for holding back money, and his crime is death?
Yeah. So does Peter pass judgment, or does Peter just reveal the truth?
Okay.
Which is kind of a prophetic thing to do. Is we don't let people stand in their lies, and he revealed the truth, and evidently God strikes him dead. That's what the scripture reveals, is that God says, I'm not going to let this stand. You're not going to lie in community.
Well, he gets a chance. Hey, are you sure? He gets an opportunity to come clean. He chooses not to come clean. Judgment is passed. Punishment is passed. We'll say this is God's punishment. We're not going to say that Peter has the ability to just kill people. We know he saves people. He even raises, Dorcas from the dead.
Yeah. Right.
Now, let's continue with the story.
Yeah.
A couple men come and drag Ananias, roll him up in the carpet, drag him out. All right? Yeah. Bring in his wife. Peter.
That's a great image.
Is this all the money? Now they got Ananias' wife there. Is this all of the money you received for the purchase, for the sale of your land?
She goes, why, sure it is.
Is it really?
And she goes, why, sure it is.
Yeah. And then what happens to her?
Yeah, he said, well, we've taken your husband out feet first. We're going to take you out feet first.
At that moment, she fell down at his feet and died. Then the young men came in, finding her dead, carried her out and buried her beside her husband. Great fear seized the whole church and all who heard about these events. This is reading in Acts 5. So this has two meanings here. There's a judgment passed on the lying, and then it happens right in front of a lot of people. They're like, ooh.
If judgment worked like that, I always thought if judgment worked like that, I would be a much better person. If I were given, I don't know, an electric shock every time I lied, I'd probably lie a lot less. If judgment were immediate and specific for what I've done, I always thought that would be a fairer way for it to happen. But that's not how it works in the real world.
No. So his judgment it's cruel. Was it justified? They held back a little bit of money and they lied. Was it justified?
I think the metaphor for the story, I think the ultimate teaching for the story was that lying destroys community. That whatever they held back in the long grand scheme of things makes no difference. And they probably thought, we're going to hold back $100 out of $5,000. What difference does it make? Oh, it don't make any difference. But lying kills community. And just look at the American society now, the lies that are constantly being told, the misinformation that's always being put out. I saw this week where, I don't know, it's on X, how much of the information is actually coming from foreign sources. And people go, I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, who do you listen to? Yeah.
And if you lie, communities cannot stand. they will collapse. So what happens to Ananias and Sapphira is a metaphor for what happens to community. It's not going to be instantaneous, but it will not stand. We used to, in America, Republicans and Democrats could agree on facts. They could disagree about how to respond to the facts that are offered, but we can't even agree on what the facts are anymore. And so we're not in a good place.
No. So faith in today's world, what's going on today, Judgment, you see where rich people get such a lighter sentence than a poor black person gets for drug. And you go, is that justified?
Right. So
20-year sentence for having a possession of cocaine versus someone that's stole $100 million out of Medicare, defrauded the system,
right?
Is a pedophile. But you're a rich white person and you contributed to Donald Trump's campaign. You're going to get pardoned.
It's a white collar crime.
Yeah.
But also on the poor level, cocaine and crack is the same stuff. The crack was used in the black community. And it's a much, much severer sentence than cocaine. Cocaine is the white man's drug. Crack was the black man's drug back in the day. And the crack, you spent a lot more time in prison than you did with cocaine. And so this sense of judgment is used in a way. It is used in a way that is cruel to minorities. It hurts a certain group of people as opposed to another group of people. And that's, again, like you said, whether it's wealth or whether it's race, it's the same thing. The color matters, and the most important color is green, the color of money. And if you have money, you can get off of a lot. You can get away with a lot of things.
A lot of things you can. We saw in here in North Carolina this past week, Charlotte here and in Raleigh, where the ICE showed up, started conducting raids, claimed to be making our community safer. Who do you listen to? Lies, true, false? Not going to go there. Trying to round up illegal aliens, but literally just picking up brown people off the street, not knowing if they were criminals or illegal, just because the color of their skin, judged them that, so you're Mexican heritage, you're here illegal. I'm going to arrest you. Don't have to give you your rights, and we'll figure it out later, 3 or 4 days later after I detain you, if you're legal or not. We want to do this. This is totally against our Constitution, rules, law. It's judgment solely based on race. Right. Duke, why
race
is
and
this
language,
okay?
It's race. The Supreme Court says you can't do it on just race, but you can do it on race and language. If they don't speak English and they're a certain color, you can apprehend them then. And so I saw a report where at one point 370 people were detained, but only 44 had some kind of criminal action against them. So you're looking at 320 plus people who had done nothing wrong, that had their lives completely turned upside down. And the fear, are they going to deport me? Am I going to be deported to a third country? That cruelty, that fear that is caused is immoral. There is no way, there's no way where I can read Jesus and come square with that.
Right.
And again, that's a statement of judgment, Kevin.
Well,
that is a statement of judgment.
I don't know. I don't know the right way to do this. I believe that's a wrong way to do it. Yes, they might be here illegally, might be breaking laws. I understand that side of the argument, but the way you're just rounding up people is you claim to be doing it for criminal basis. Well, if you arrest someone for committing a crime and then find out that they are here illegally, then you deport them. You can carry forth. But a society that puts forth how many millions and millions of dollars to create this force, okay, that goes around wearing masks, reminds you of something else.
Right.
To go into our communities, at the same time we pay for this, we cut food stamps, we take food from people that are starving, Medicare from people, and medical assistance from those that are medically bankrupt because of the bills that they cannot pay. And where's the judgment on this society that puts forth the priority in paying for building up all ice and doing all these raids versus just helping out the poor. What doesn't Jesus say we're
Right.
supposed to be feeding the widows and the orphans, taking care of them?
That's how I read. That's how I read Scripture. Even the Book of James says this is true religion, that you help the widow and the poor. That's a quote from the Book of James. That's what true religion is all about. And some people may say, well, that's what religion's supposed to do, but the government, it has a different set of rules that we can live by. And that was at the heart of what was happening in Germany. That okay, so society, the government has a different set of rules that it lives by than the church. And as my understanding of faith is that our task as the church is to give witness to the kingdom of God, is to make that the standard for how we live our life today, whether it's the law or not.
Right. So in faith in today's world, when I talk to my sons and their friends and other young people in the church, and they go to church and we preach these things and the message of Jesus, and yet they see some of the churches supporting our government and these systems and what they're doing. And they see the hypocrisy, and they're like, "This is why people don't want to be part of the
Yes,
church."
right.
It's early American Constitution says every man was created equal, but in reality, they're talking about rich white men that were property owners, not necessarily everyone. That the original people, they were all slave owners at the time.
That is absolutely correct. It was rich landowning white people that were created equul.
But
That's
in
what it meant in its original founding. And that's why, someone says I'm an originalist. I understand there's more depth than that. But if you're gonna understand the Constitution as an originalist, you understand that this is for rich white people who own land.
Yeah, but we've grown as a society. We've learned
Yes.
that is not the correct way to interpret this. How
Right.
we should, what the correct way to do this. But now in 2025, when a church still supports this white supremacy, nationalist, fundamentalist movement, which is that's really what it is.
Right.
Okay. At the
Yes.
same
The
time,
church is behind much of the church is behind it. We're not talking about general church. I'm not just talking about, but much of the church is behind what's going on.
so there's the hypocrisy in faith in
Yes.
today's world. Is that society has been able to move past the original founding fathers and their beliefs to a more progressive, realistic, better way of looking at it. Yet
Right.
the church is not necessarily doing this. And then they wonder why there's so much judgment going on in the church and in society, because even in a safe place, and that's Jesus told us not to judge, it's happening.
Right. Yeah. What do we do about it, Kevin?
What's the answer here? We talked about this
Right.
faith in today's world, and what's it like to be a Christian, and is there a movement to just step away from the church and form another church? It's happened throughout history. The Catholic Martin Luther and Protestant church basically split from the Catholic Church at the time. They believed that men were created equal, that anybody could be a ordained minister or pastor or preach the word or read the Bible, that you didn't have to be an ordained minister and believe underneath the Pope that in order to read it and understand it and preach it.
Right.
The Protestant group is one of the biggest group of judges I've come to known.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I don't mean to brag, but we Protestants can do it very well.
So not that anybody else. The point I'm trying to make is they're no better.
Correct. Correct. Yes.
They're no better.
The problem with the church I've always found is the people in it. And again, the problem with any organization is the people in it. Let's go back to my kind of original point that of Brian McLaren's book, the Faith After Doubt. People are people are people. And, the difference is what has shaped and formed us, what moves us to behave ethically. And we believe that the story of Jesus is a story that invites people that in Christ there's neither slave nor free, male nor female, Jew nor Gentile. We're all one in Christ. That's at the heart of my understanding of the teaching of Jesus. That is the forming fact. But then you start wanting power and control. So you say, oh, the Bible is literal. And here are 15 verses that I'm selecting out of the Bible that I'm going to use to judge everybody else. And that's the challenge. That's the challenge we have.
Yes.
Is motivation. What is our motivation?
Right.
And so the motivation is, the Christian nationalist motivation is, we're going to make everybody Christian. We're going to create a Christian society with Christian laws, which is not different than Sharia laws in other countries with other religions. They don't like that, but they're going to do that here. It's being done here. Here's how I understand Jesus. Here's how I understand scriptures. And we're going to pass laws to make sure everybody follows this.
Right.
And their heart is that God will only bless us if we do this. And so that's at the heart of it. God's going to destroy us unless we follow these set of rules that I've come to determine are the set of rules to follow.
Right. Right. Well, we've come across as two antagonists here. We're both very strong Christians and believers in our church. I'm a strong member believer in my church. We're kind of not all churches are like this. Okay, so we need to set that out. There are a lot of good people out there. There's a lot of great organizations out there. There's a lot of churches out there. My wife is working hard right now today trying to get gifts and just blankets for the poor homeless, that poor kids that fell out through the foster care system that are literally sleeping in cars. We put forth a need
and
of just blankets.
These foster care kids that she's working for right now, it was their food stamps that were cut. Just want to be clear about it. Let's just be real clear about that.
Right.
That these kids who have no choice and are in foster care, their food stamps have been cut when they shut down the government. And the people who shut down the government knew it.
Oh, yeah. But they're out of fear. They're worried about being ostracized in their Republican Party, and they give homage to their party and to their party's leader instead of doing the right thing. So obviously they're not fair. They're not afraid of God's judgment. They're afraid of judgment of their constituents that voted for them, that are the hard right. That's who they're answering to. Later on, they're going to have to answer for their deeds. We all know all of this, but there are some great people out there. ICE was protested and almost ran out of town here in North Carolina because you're like, these are good, hardworking people that you're rounding up. You're not just rounding up criminals. This is not right. We're providing blankets, food, coats for poor people right now that are just cold. That just need it. And there's so many people coming forth. We are against that poor individual out there that doesn't understand in their mind going, well, it's their own fault, or tell them to get a job. You don't get it. You don't understand. Quit judging that person because they're in a bad place right now. You have no reason or understanding why they're in that position. That's the kind of judgment that we're talking about today. Is just flat wrong.
So Brian McLaren also talks about the biases that we carry. And so, I ask, if I were to ask in the white church in general, when you hear food stamps, draw what a food stamp recipient looks like. And my guess is they'd mostly draw people of color. The vast majority of people who receive food stamps are white, simply because of numbers. Because there's so many more white people than everybody else. And so the vast majority of food stamp recipients are white. But people who hear food stamps, they automatically turn in their biases to people of color. And that immediate knee-jerk reaction is dangerous. And it's not healthy. It's not true either.
It's not. So we be careful who we listen to. Try to get the facts as much as we can. I'm going to start wrapping up here. I'm going to keep this right here at 30 minutes because we've got some great things that we're going to be doing for December. In December, we decided that we're going to do a little bit of a Advent study. We're going to talk about what Advent is in the 4 weeks of December leading up to Christmas. In preparation for Christmas, we're going to talk about the Advent season. So Duke's got a great series for us.
I love this idea, and I think Advent Christmas in the Saint Francis theology, Saint Francis really lifted up Advent and Christmas as the heart of God's salvation. And I think he's absolutely. We look at Easter and the resurrection, which, yes, the resurrection solidifies that Jesus Christ is Lord. But it's Advent and Christmas that prepares us to receive the Christ. And I think it's just it's really the most important time of the Christian year, if you
It
follow the
is.
Christian year.
And it seems like everyone changes. That whole Saul Paul conversion, you see people changing, generous, gift giving, loving, peace to one another. Why is it just in the Christmas season that people act like this, that we don't act like this
Right.
more year round? Come January, the judgment's going to come right back out again. Unfortunately, it is the way it is.
Yeah, but
there's
yet,
a great song by Bruce Hornsby that goes, "Hey, little boy, you can't go where the others go because you don't look like they do. And hey, old man, how can you stand to think that way? Did you really think about it before you made the rules?" And he said, "That's just the way it is. Things will never
right.
change. That's just the way it is." Oh, but don't you believe him? That's what Bruce Hornsby says. Don't you
Don't you
believe him?
believe him? Right.
It
And that's the
doesn't
message of
have to be that
Advent.
way. It
That's the
doesn't
message
have
of
to.
Advent. It doesn't have to be this way. And
Doesn't.
that's, we think about, you think about what happens, again, judgment, with school mass shootings. Oh, we'll offer thoughts and prayers. To say that, and when you have power to do something and you don't do it, is just immoral. It is absolutely immoral. And the Advent hope is that we don't have to accept what everybody says, well, this is just the way it is.
Yeah, it's not. That's just the way it is. It's a cop out. We need to have the
Right.
courage to stand up to do what's right. I think that very, very early Christians did. We're talking about before the Roman Empire kind of took on the Christian faith and turned it into this
Right.
militaristic faith. Back in the early days in the judgment, when Paul and Peter were discussing, and it was more of a bunny headed, but it was a discussion argument. They didn't necessarily agree the same, but they didn't judge one another. Peter was fighting for the Gentiles to be included. James, strong believer in the early church, and
Paul was fighting for the Gentiles to be
again, and
included.
Peter didn't understand because he'd gone to the Gentiles, right? You just brought up the Cornelius last week. James is like, no, we're of the Jewish faith. They have to obey the laws of God. We've been taught that way. And they came to an agreement. It's like, okay, they don't have to be circumcised, but no more of this sexual immorality and no more eating the meat sacrificed to foreign gods.
Right.
Paul's like, okay, we can kind of come to a compromise here. We've got the same end result in sight. We can talk it out, have disagreements, and one doesn't need to be judged against the other.
So I think the fact that compromise has become equivalent to no backbone, to compromise is to not have true faith, to compromise is seen as a bad thing. When you live in a society that has a two-party system, compromise is the only way forward. And so we have a group of people who says, I'm not going to compromise on anything. We'll shut the government down. We'll let the hungry go hungry. We'll let insurance premiums triple and quadruple. We're not going to compromise on anything. Our society cannot stand without compromise because it's a two-party system.
Right. That's like you said last week.
You demonize the other and say, okay, we're just all going to have a one-party system.
Right. It's
and
not
that's
about
where we're
winning.
headed.
Yeah, it's not about winning. It's not I'm right, you're wrong, period, thought. Remember last week or 2 weeks ago you said, remember, if you draw a line in the sand, which side is Jesus going to be on?
Right. Yeah, right. He's going to be on the side of the suffering and broken and poor and those that are outcast.
Yes. So be careful. You start drawing a line in the sand, putting people on one side or on the other. You might find your side in the final judgment not exactly where you thought you would be.
Right. Yeah.
So there's
humility. Humility is a very important Christian virtue.
It's a lost virtue. No one seems to. Our leaders don't have it anymore. Walk humbly with God. Correct. Walk humbly with God. I got this last little verse from Ecclesiastes that I want to share. 12:13 through 14. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. So don't think that you could just be a turd and get away with it. No one saw it happen. It's seen. It's seen, right?
Yes, that's right.
Ananias thought he could get away with holding back some money.
Right.
Didn't happen.
And it's hard to recognize that virtue is made when no one is looking. Character is developed when no one is looking. Faithfulness is shaped and formed when no one is looking. And we want to make a show of everything. I want to get credit. I want to get credit for any little thing I do. Just ask my wife, honey, look at the dishes I just washed. And she goes, oh, my,
all right,
you're
good
the
boy.
greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I'm a good boy. Look at me. I'm a good boy.
That's right.
Duke, how we do on our questions today? Judgment can be cruel and unjustified, but it's ever prevalent. It's still here, isn't it?
We cannot not judge.
Yeah, and we still judge based on race, religion, and sex, even though we know it's wrong. We're still doing it.
We still do it. But the idea, the hope that we have, the faith today, is that there is a power at work in the world. There's a spirit that is at work that can help us to look and live and reflect the resurrected Christ.
And that's where we're going next week.
Right.
We're going forward. We're going positive in this beautiful time of year. Love Christmas. This week is Thanksgiving. Want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, safe travels, and please come back next week and join us for the whole. We're going to start our discussion during the Advent season with the first Advent week, and then
favorite time of year
from there. Favorite time of year. So, but until then, remember, Duke, it's never too late to do the right thing.